Hey guys, Dr. Morse, Injury Experts. So, a little bit of a crazy week 15. Unfortunately, I really didn't get to watch any games. I was at Epcot all day with family. It's been a Disney weekend. I've been here for 3 days and I have another day tomorrow. So, I was able to follow along with almost all the games, but I caught some of the injuries on replays and whatnot. I just saw the end of the Sunday night game, and in some cool jerseys. I've never seen the Packers ever wear those. That I've ever seen them play in them. Geno Smith obviously left the game with an injury. We'll talk about that in a sec. But we're starting to see the playoffs kind of shape up. Hopefully, your teams kind of pulled it together for you. There were a ton of injuries today. I'm counting 19, which might be the most I can remember on one day in a while. Usually, yes, Wednesday they add more, but rarely do I have this many on one night. And some big names. So we'll start with quarterback and we'll go from there. Patrick Mahomes looks like he suffered a high ankle sprain. He got kind of rolled up. He was bent backwards. They softly confirmed it as a high ankle. They called him week to week. He's had multiple high ankles in the past. He usually tries to play through them. He might want to err on the side of caution and miss a game here, only because if this doesn't get to 100%, they're kind of playing with fire in terms of winning games against really good teams, and they're heading towards the end of their season, and they can't risk missing an injury to him in the playoffs, obviously. So we'll have to see how it plays out. We'll have to see if he's able to ramp up midweek to see how he's playing. Obviously, all the bye weeks are done, so we'll have to see if he's able to suit up in week 16. Jalen Hurts, even though it wasn't an injury from today, it's fair to discuss. He said it did impact him. He has a left ring finger fracture on his non-throwing hand. He says, yes, it did impact him today. He was wearing a little bit of a brace. It can't be too crazy because you won't be able to move your hand and you won't be able to grip a ball, but he still had a ridiculous day. I think he 31 or 32 points, but something to monitor. He's just going to play through this, but these usually take about 3-4 weeks to really heal, hoping there's no ligament damage there. If there is, then sometimes that never heals. Josh Allen suffered a right throwing shoulder injury. What a crazy game this was. I wish I watched this one. I was following it, but whew. It was like 900 plus yards of an offense. Both quarterbacks had crazy days. He was slammed pretty hard on that right shoulder. Reportedly got x-rays afterwards. I'm assuming they were negative. My suspicion is an AC sprain. It's kind of what it looked like. We'll have to see how bad it was. He played through one of these last year and kind of had a little bit of modifications, and he struggled a little bit with his throw. So we'll have to see how he does in week 16. I'm assuming he's going to try to play through this, but keep an eye on this. He had all of his receivers finally back, and Amari Cooper, who had a 32% target share last week, nothing, not a single target, which was bananas to me. And even Shakir, his best target, didn't even hit 40 yards receiving. Despite Josh throwing for 360, 370. So kind of a crazy split between all of them. Geno Smith left with a knee injury. I didn't exactly see it. I saw him hobbling off. He obviously didn't come back into the game. Usually these are either meniscus or MCL, but again, we'll have to see what they say. I didn't get to see the video. And we'll have to keep an eye on this. Obviously, this is a potentially big deal. If Sam Howell ends up playing, this could potentially be a big deal. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. And then Justin Fields did get into the game a little bit tonight, but he had an abdominal injury. We'll have to see, is this a strain? Is this an oblique? We'll have to see exactly what it is. Sometimes it's a rib that causes like a kidney injury like Noah Brown was dealing with. Tommy DeVito suffered a concussion, so he was out of the game. And then I think it was Tim Boyle, the quarterback. Unfortunately, Nick Chubb suffered a foot fracture. Could have been a Jones fracture, could have been a mid-foot fracture, could have been there's a bunch of different types. This is presumably going to be season-ending. These take at least 4 to 6 weeks, which is going to end his season. Just an unfortunate season coming back from that ACL, bad ACL. I tweeted earlier that Jerome Ford could be potentially a league winner. And when people say it, like, what are you talking about? Well, first of all, he's going to have the backfield to himself. Second of all, you have Jameis presumably throwing the ball to him. And Ford is a pretty good receiver. And they play the Bengals next week, which should be a pretty crazy game. And how many guys are you going to get that are going to be decent, solid running backs in week 16 that you can depend on, or relatively depend on, picking off the waiver wire? You can't. It just doesn't really happen. So that's why. And we've seen him drop a couple 15, 20, 30-point games. So maybe this is another one. I don't know. But definitely flex-worthy next week until until we see more. Alvin Kamara suffered a groin strain. Sounds like it's mild. Does that mean he's potentially going to play next week? I don't know. Kendre Miller could be a potentially target for people. If he's not already on your team, you should probably go pick him up because he could potentially help. Joe Mixon got lucky today. He didn't do a whole lot today, though. He looked like he tackled almost another hip drop tackle, but he didn't suffer that dreaded high ankle sprain, which he did earlier in the season on a very similar tackle. Tony Pollard suffered an injury to his ankle. I'm assuming it was a re-injury to the same ankle. I didn't get to see it, but we'll have to see how that played out. He did most of the volume, but Tajay Spears did most of the receiving, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Jaleel McLaughlin for the Denver Broncos suffered a quad injury, probably a quad strain, but it could be a quad bruise. That backfield isn't really anything we're targeting, so probably irrelevant. Braelon Allen suffered a back injury. I think he probably would have got more work. I think he came in back into the game, but these are usually annoying. So the issue, Breece Hall had a fantastic matchup coming back from that knee injury. The question was he even going to play this week? Because he didn't play last week and he didn't practice on Wednesday and Thursday, and all of a sudden he's a full practice on Friday. I warned people, hey, be careful. He got lucky because he rolled into the end zone on the 1 yard line, and he ended up salvaging his day from 7 fantasy points to 13. He probably could have had a little bit more, but nonetheless, he still ended up doing okay for fantasy owners. If Braelon Allen's back is worse, maybe Breece Hall becomes a better option next week. Trey Benson, the backup for James Conner, suffered an ankle injury, so we'll have to see how significant that is. He hasn't really been getting a lot of work because James Conner, who's been looking really good. Grant DuBose, Dubuis, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, suffered a potentially significant, meaning scary, neck injury. He was carted off the field from what I saw in a neck brace and legit. We could be talking fracture. We could be talking paralyzation. I haven't seen any specifics. Usually they say something significant if it is significant. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. He's been bounced around a couple different teams this year. Jaylen Waddle suffered looked like an MCL sprain in his knee. Based on the way that he went, it could have been a meniscus. It was just the way he was kind of rolled up and kind of the angle that his knee took. But he didn't record any points today, which killed one of my teams. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Malik Washington actually pretty good. Geno Smith ended up leading the team, I think, in receiving. So another thing to keep an eye on. Curtis Samuel suffered a shoulder injury. He had one earlier this year. Maybe it's the same one. Maybe it's a new one. He came back in, but he's not really relevant right now. Alec Pierce with a concussion. And Josh Downs didn't do a whole lot today, despite playing with that shoulder injury. Pittman actually looked pretty good. Xavier Leggette with a groin injury to something to monitor. Coker looked pretty good. And Zach Ertz with a concussion, obviously, that ended his day. A couple guys that left the game and came back. Saquon Barkley, Kyler Murray, Jamison Williams, and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown after the game said, my ankle is fine, I did okay. He did have a similar to a hip drop tackle. Looks like he rolled out of it though, and he got lucky. But we'll have to keep an eye on the practice training report this week to see if he's on the injury report or if he's fine. He might take Wednesday off or Thursday off. It looked like his left ankle, but something we'll keep an eye on. I'll give you more information when we have more. Obviously, transitioning into week 16. If there's any new big injuries or any specific things, I'll try to do a one-on-one video. Best of luck. If you like the content, do me a favor, smash a thumbs up, subscribe, and check out some of the other videos that we have here and on TikTok. Thanks. Take care.